Welcome! I have been neglecting this series on cryptocurrencies, so it's time to upload another video on the subject. Without getting too technical, which I would not be able to pull off anyway, I will compare two consensus mechanisms to emphasize the benefits of proof of stake, to which Ethereum, the second largest cryptocurrency, is moving. Today, most well-known cryptos use the same method to record new transactions and agree on the state of all information recorded in their respective blockchains. Finding the right mechanism is important because all parts of the network should see and rely on the same data. If they don't, there could be serious consequences, like double spending, which means the same currency can be spent twice without properly verifying the first transaction. Manipulation of such data should be avoided at all cost. In most cases, this is done through proof of work, so we should take a look at that first. When a certain network relies on proof of work, serious hardware is required in order to add valid blocks to the chain and maintain consistency between peers, making sure everybody agrees on account balances and the order of transactions. This is also referred to as mining, but the basics are easy to understand. The work itself is moderately hard to deter manipulation and denial of service attacks, while verification is easy. Miners race to solve a difficult math puzzle, hashing is used to detect fraud, the first node that successfully solves the puzzle gets the reward and adds a new block of transactions to the chain. Other nodes verify this new block, making the blockchain longer and more believable, reaching a consensus. You need to control 51% of the entire network to be able to consistently create malicious blocks, which is next to impossible. However, the problems are obvious. This work requires large amounts of energy, which raises concerns regarding sustainability. For example, in 2022, Ethereum consumes as much energy as the country of Austria, and it's only the second largest network. Another method is proof of stake, to which the Ethereum network is slowly being moved. This process has taken years, and it's not yet completed due to the amount of work and testing required. Once the move is done, miners will no longer be needed, because the mathematical puzzles will be replaced with a different requirement that does not need strong hardware. Obviously, the primary goal is to remove such requirements and make the network more sustainable and environmentally friendly, while keeping it stable and reachable for the public. Previously, this new version was called Ethereum 2, but the developers considered it too confusing for new users and too alluring for scammers, so the term is no longer used. Instead, they talk about two different layers, which are part of the same network. Proof of stake is a different consensus mechanism that does not involve difficult computations. These are replaced with staking, so validators have to stake their existing ETH, the cryptocurrency, to order transactions and create new blocks so that all nodes can agree on the state of the network. Obvious advantages are energy efficiency, reduced hardware requirements, more decentralization, as new nodes can be added easily, and better scalability, while the existing level of security is maintained. According to current plans, anyone who stakes 32 ETH can become a validator, but they are chosen randomly to create new blocks, and also to verify and confirm blocks that others created. If they fail to validate, or they do something malicious, they can lose their stake, which should encourage good behavior. Instead of mining, validators propose new blocks when chosen, and validate blocks when they are not. All validators receive rewards, more currency, which is the main reason for their participation. In Ethereum, proof of stake will be introduced with the added complexity of sharding. Instead of a single, huge blockchain, dozens of shard chains will exist at the same time, so validators only have to deal with data for the shard they are validating, not the entire network. This way, hardware requirements are reduced and better speed can be achieved, but it also allows more people to join the network because, despite the enormous size, the client can then be run on any laptop or phone. This increases decentralization, which further enhances security, although extra coordination is necessary to make sure data from each shard is shared with the others and the network remains in sync. Once POS is available, a randomly selected validator will add your new transaction to a shard block, while other validators confirm that block, attesting to its validity. At least 128 validators will be needed to attest to each new block. This committee will be able to propose and validate 32 new blocks before it is disbanded. A new committee of validators will then be formed to validate another 32 new blocks. Once a certain block has enough attestations, it is included in the main chain, the beacon chain, and the participating validators receive their rewards. Transactions are final when they are in a block that cannot be changed anymore. At certain checkpoints, validators have to agree on the state of a block, and as long as 2/3 of them agree, the block is finalized. However, if they attempt to change this outcome later on through a 51% attack, they lose their entire stake, so a move like that can be very costly. Such attacks are still possible, but in order to perform them, you have to control 51% of the staked ETH, which is a lot of money, but there will be other incentives to keep the network secure. To sum up, Proof of Stake offers several advantages compared to the current method, Proof of Work. It makes it easier to run the client, as you don't need strong hardware anymore. You need to stake your ETH, but if you don't have any, you can participate in staking pools, just like you can join mining pools now. Lowering the requirements should result in the creation of more nodes, allowing more decentralization and better security as the network grows in size. The method of staking also allows secure sharding, in which multiple new blocks can be created at the same time, so more transactions can be validated, speeding up the network. If cryptocurrencies want to become a viable alternative, they should catch up to existing payment networks like Visa and MasterCard in this regard. We know that the switch to Proof of Stake will take place in 3 stages. The first phase is called Beacon Chain. It was already made available in December 2020. This will act as the central coordinator between the shard chains. The second phase is the merge itself, changing the consensus mechanism from Proof of Work to Proof of Stake, which is the subject of this video. We don't know when the merge will happen. Right now, the second half of 2022 seems to be the target, but delays are always possible. In fact, there have been many delays before, as more testing was needed to avoid serious issues and security flaws. Once it is done, mining will be phased out, so miners will no longer have to invest in super fast graphics cards to improve their chances of earning ETH. The third phase is called Shard Chains. It will establish sharding, making the current Ethereum chain one of those shard chains. At the moment, 64 shards are planned, so the network's load will be spread across 64 new chains. This will most likely happen sometime in 2023, but this mainly depends on the merge. Once all 3 phases are completed, the Ethereum network should become larger, more secure, and also faster, although the issuance rate of Ether will most likely be reduced, which should lower inflation and increase the value of the currency. I hope this quick summary was helpful. In the future, I may add more videos on cryptos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.